All right, welcome everybody to this Brightown Conversation special report with Dr. Brian Ardis, whose bombshell allegations and documentaries just came out a couple of days ago. And, you know, a lot of people very concerned about snake venom origins or venom-related peptide origins for COVID vaccines, or is it in the water supply in certain areas, or is it in the treatments that are being given to people? So since that has broken, some questions have been raised, and we decided to bring Dr. Ardis back to join us and help answer some of those questions. Dr. Ardis, it's great to have you back. Thank you for your courage, for speaking out. Thank you for joining us today.
Mike, it's great to see you, man. It's been an overwhelming and emotional journey for the last 4 months. And since this news all broke last night, it is no different. Well,
give us an overview of sort of what has the reaction been? What have people been texting you or calling you and saying? What's the reaction?
So I have to say the overwhelming reaction, which I was very concerned. I was just overwhelmed that any of this information I was led down a path to discover, as I feel has been led and inspired by God to uncover this stuff to help warn and inspire and protect as many innocent people as possible. I'm still worried that the information was going to be so monstrous that many people would deflect immediately and not trust the information or not want to even consider looking at it. So the overall response has been way more supportive than I ever imagined. And I'm not kidding. 90% of everything I've heard has been nothing like, oh my God, this makes sense. And I want to actually throw something out to you. I woke up this morning, and this is a couple things that, Mike, you know, when I brought this to you, I was hoping that any gaps that are filled in this story could be filled in by other people who are experts in their field. I'm not an expert in all fields. I'm not even an expert in water supply. So I just want to get this water supply out of the way. The one thing that's been the biggest negative has been lots of people talking about there's no way this is in the water. How can you even say they're poisoning the water with snake venom, blah, blah, blah. I want you to understand something. Water has not been my story. This is not even the biggest part of the story. I have said from the beginning for the last 2 years, whatever the bioweapon is, even when I thought it was just a virus engineered in a lab, I actually said, whatever their weapon is, it's not very good because less than 1% of the entire world has died from it. Whatever they've been investing billions of dollars into, 99.997% of everyone worldwide has survived. That means God's creation's been way greater than whatever man's weaponized, whatever it is, was. So even with the water source, if that is the source, I never thought it was dangerous. I never thought it was horrific and demonizing and everyone needs to go look at the water. So I want to make sure the water thing is handled here. And then I'm going to tell you what really was cool to me for an example that's happened last night and has continued throughout today.
Okay, well, hold on a second. Hold on. About the water thing, you know, I found it a little bit surprising that some people were giving you some pushback on the water issue. It's as if they've forgotten the decades of water fluoridation. The water supply has been meticulously, systematically poisoned with toxic fluoride, which is a neurotoxic chemical. And that's dripped into the water supply. And usually it comes in the form of a powder originally, and then it's put in a solution. Well, in every municipal water center, there is a machine that drips the quote, proper dose of poison into the water supply, folks. So how can anybody say they're not poisoning us in the water? And then secondly, what about Flint, Michigan? What about all the lead poisoning in the water supply, that huge explosive news stories? What about all the poisoning from, DuPont chemicals in the water supply? I mean, come on, people. To say that you can't be poisoned in the water supply, I mean, it's just ignorant. It's absurd.
I actually believe it's ignorant also. In fact, the people who have reached out and given me pushback, my immediate thought, Mike, has always been, every time, they've been using fluoride in your water at some level that they believe it has a biological reaction in the people who are drinking it.
That's correct.
They're putting something in your water, and then to actually kind of diffuse everyone's attention on water, if you don't like the water concept. When people keep asking me, what proof do you have it's in the water? How about you just look at what the CDC's been doing, what they've been actually testing the whole time looking for the bioweapon called SARS-CoV-2. They have 400 water testing sites in different cities around the country. And they're sticking cotton swabs, doing PCR testing on your water, looking for the weapon. It's called SARS-CoV-2. They're looking for this virus, they call a virus, in your water. And even you, before we started pre-recording this, you said, yeah, but they're going to say wastewater. I said, well, they're going to filter that wastewater, and then it's going to become what? It's going to become your source water. And this has been what I've said on multiple platforms already today, Mike, and I'll say it here. I can't see anything yet where the CDC has proven to me that they're not only testing the water for SARS-CoV-2, this really deadly pathogen, and then at the same time, they are filtering it out of your water before they give it back to you. I've never seen that. I've never seen or read anything about that. All I keep reading is we are testing all these sites looking for the bioweapon called SARS-CoV-2 in the water, and they have been using this one sole source as the predictor for outbreaks in your city. Only in the water. They're only looking in the water. So I just want you to know, if the CDC is looking in your water for SARS-CoV-2, maybe we should find out, are they actually filtering it out as they find it? And if they are, this is brilliant. They're trying to protect us. That's great. But that's not what they're saying. They're saying they're using this as a predictor of future outbreaks for your town. It must be recirculating into the town. You're going to be anything in it, whatever.
You bring up a really important question in all of this. So as you said, what they're testing is wastewater, which is, post sewage. I mean, it's sewage water. But as you also say, the sewage water gets treated and turned back into drinking water. And this is true all across the country. I mean, a lot of people maybe don't think about it this way, but what comes out of your tap was coming out of someone's toilet upstream, up the river.
Exactly right.
Right? So the question then becomes the treatments that are taking place in these water districts. Do these treatments remove SARS-CoV-2? Do they remove potentially snake venom? Do they remove, what do they remove or what do they not remove? And I don't yet know a comprehensive answer to that question.
I don't either. So the fact that governments around the world, this has been very enlightening, Mike. People around the world keep writing in and publishing articles and sharing them with me and other groups that I'm a part of, that all of a sudden they're realizing every single government in their countries has been doing wastewater surveillance testing for SARS-CoV-2, and they didn't know it the whole time.
Wow.
Oh my God, have they been poisoning the water right under our noses, and we never knew it? How did Dr. Ardis come to this? The truth is, Mike, and I really want to convey this, the story for me is not the water. My whole agenda has been for 2 years to save people's lives from hospital protocols. It just turns into that I got a text from Dr. Richard Bartlett. I'm going to tell the whole world who it is because he told me last night I could tell you. He's the one that sent me the text that said, Dr. Ardis, if you got bit by a rattlesnake, would you go get antivenom? On December 1st, 2021. Ever since then, the entire scope of COVID-19 and the reality of what it really is has completely transformed, regardless of the source of how they're distributing it. It is enough evidence to now go start looking to see, is it true that the bioweapon itself, either through gain of function or they've just been dumping synthetic peptides of venoms in the water or aerosolizing them, however they're distributing them, is it true that it is snake venom peptides or animal venom peptides? And if so, go look, test the people they actually have already said, like we showed on your show, the University of Arizona said those individuals treated for COVID-19, they described that the tissue samples and the blood samples, the amount of this enzyme called SPLA2, it looked like venom coursing through their veins because this enzyme is found in rattlesnake venom. You need to start looking at, is it possible there are components found in venom that is orchestrating this whole plan? Because when you start to look at the mRNA shot side effects, they almost all of them can be tied to a specific snake venom component. You can also look at SARS-CoV-2, the infection and its side effects, like loss of taste and smell. These are actually side effects of snake venoms. They are, and it's not customarily a side effect of viruses, and it's been very mysterious Well,
Yeah, and
why don't you go look?
so I'm glad you mentioned multiple vectors about exposure. So Dr. Lee Merritt, for example, believes that probably this has been distributed in cities as a contact poison, which is another way because, skin penetrating nanoparticles, that was part of the EcoHealth Alliance proposal to DARPA for release in China in the bat caves. You've mentioned water as a possible vector. You also just mentioned an aerosolized release as a possible vector. And I think what you're trying to say to people is, hey, don't get stuck on the water. There are multiple vectors. The point is, maybe it's in the air, maybe it's on contact surfaces, maybe it's in the water, but people are being deliberately exposed to these nanoparticles that you're saying were derived from the structure of venom peptides because those molecules are extremely toxic and are generating the side effects that you're seeing. Is that a fair summary of what you're saying?
That is a great summary. In fact, I want to say something to Dr. Lee Merritt. She texted me this morning and she's like, Dr. Ardis, you're going to have to show me evidence about this water sourcing with snake venom. And I said, Dr. Merritt, you're missing the point. I need everybody to go look at the weapon. I don't care where it is. I said, and then I told her, I said, look, Dr. Merritt, they're finding it in the water. Our government agencies are spending millions of dollars finding it in water. It's obviously in the water also, whether through shedding of feces or they're poisoning you like fluoride. Just know the weapon is venom. Treat it like an envenomation, and you'll solve the riddle of the mystery of SARS-CoV-2 infections, the side effects of the vaccines, and the hospital protocols being used for COVID-19 infections.
Okay, yeah.
Something in common. They all find these snake venom-like properties in the side effects and in the enzymes in their bodies.
Yeah, that's what's fascinating. That's a lot of the response that I've received also from the first part of our interview was that it was shocking how closely the symptoms match up. And also you've provided a tremendous amount of documentation. So, there's been a lot of due diligence happening today. Scientific American absolutely did publish the story. I think it was in 2020 that's mentioned in your presentation that talks about that SARS-CoV-2 has the most similarity with snakes because of the codons and the genetic similarity. That's absolutely true. And CNN covered it and other science journals and so on. So people who say, well, there's no research to back this up, I don't know what they're watching. Or they're not watching it because we put it all on screen, actually.
Mike, one of my favorite things to do when we did your interview that I really it kind of solidified it all for me was that British medical journal. I don't know if your audience has seen it yet, but when the British medical journal Global News published last year that right now there are 2 health crises going on at the same time around the world. They said, snake bites and COVID-19, 2 crises going on at the same time around the world, but they have one research and development in common. There's only one research and development opportunity to handle both. Do you want to know why? They didn't say that there's 2 things going on at the same time. They did not say that there's bat bites and COVID-19 are 2 crises going on at the same time. Nope, they're very specific. Snake bites and COVID-19. And the codon usage bias, as we showed you from those studies in January of 2020, the codon usage bias, that is a specific term that specifies the genetic origin. Well, this study found the codon usage bias for SARS-CoV-2 was most identical to the common crate or Chinese crate snake and the king cobra. And we even went over the squared Euclidean distance with you. I was shocked you even knew what it meant. But the most similarity was genetically source was 2 snakes, not bats, snakes. And still, a year and a half later, you're seeing other journals publish that snake bites and COVID have a lot in common. Not bat bites, COVID and snake bites. Yeah, they have a lot in common. They both have snake venom in them. That's what it is.
Yeah, and it's, what's really fascinating about this is how much research you brought to the table. And I turned that over to my editorial team also to go through a lot of those articles and citations, and it really is shocking. So one of the reactions happening today from the left-wing media is like, oh, this is crazy, snake venom, crazy conspiracy, where do these people get this stuff, right? Attacking you and Stu Peters and so on. But then it's all in the research. It's all in the articles. It's like, but the funny thing is, by attacking you over this, they are forcing people to think about snake venom for the first time. So,
well, and the British Medical Journal saying that snake bites are a crisis on the world right now. Maybe you should all be looking at venom.
yeah, well, I mean, people are for sure right now. Let me ask you a different question about remdesivir, because one of the things that we did today, as journalists, is we sent an email to Gilead Sciences and requested an interview with their chief science officer to respond to some of the information that you presented. So, I want to be on the record that, hey, we're giving Gilead a chance to respond to this. And I have a lot of questions for Gilead too. If they agree to an interview with me, it'll be a fair interview. But I got a lot of questions about why are people dying from, after taking remdesivir and so on. But I want to give them a chance to respond. And if that happens, Dr. Ardis, I would give you a chance to respond to whatever they say as well. But, isn't that, I don't think they're going to say yes to that. But if they do, I would welcome it. What do you think?
Do you know I've had a medical doctor here that Dr. Peter McCullough referred me to that thought they could help me get remdesivir to get it tested in a lab? Multiple labs.
Yes.
They put in multiple phone calls, emails into Gilead Sciences, medical doctor did, to request remdesivir. I even offered to pay full retail price for it. And they never responded. Not once did they ever respond over several months. And that's fine. They don't have to respond, but I want to get it tested. The fact that, for example, what really tied this together for me was when I read the University of Arizona's study, when they were evaluating blood samples of people treated for COVID-19 in 2 different hospitals, hundreds of blood samples. These people all received remdesivir. That is the only antiviral being used for COVID-19 patients. Every single one of them, they said, had high elevations of this phospholipase A2 that is found in rattlesnake venom or viper snake venoms. And then I was like, oh no, well, is there a connection to Gilead and this Indian King cobra venom study that was published in January of 2020? Genentech funded the study. Genentech actually has been acquired by Gilead Sciences. Just 10 years earlier, they bought up several facilities and brought on 55 of their executives. And I would like to know, do they have cobra venom or snake venom in their product? Because University of Arizona found these snake venom enzymes in COVID-19 treated patients in hospitals. It would be interesting to find out.
Well, yeah, it is interesting, but just for the record, those enzymes could also come from other sources, or there could be synthetic peptides that were based on the research of snake venom, right? Several different scenarios, but I want to add too, our laboratory, we have a time-of-flight mass spec instrument, and if Gilead responds to us, I will offer to them to send us a sample. We'd like to test it on our time-of-flight instrument. We are an ISO accredited laboratory, audited, inspected. We pass tests, blind tests and so on. And the thing about the time-of-flight system is that it has an amino acid or a protein deconvolution algorithm that can handle the very large molecules, which is what snake venom typically is, very, very large. But that instrument can handle up to 20,000 Daltons. And so, it'll be interesting. Would Gilead Sciences send a sample to a laboratory run by the health ranger? If they would, I would do it honestly. I'm not going to fabricate anything out of the lab. No way. We're going to do it honestly and report what's in there. But we would then be able to see actually the molecular mass of what's in there. Wouldn't that be fascinating?
That would be fascinating. I hope Gilead answers the request in a positive manner and provides the sample. I will also say that, yes, it is absolutely true. Venom peptides from snakes, snails, can be and has been synthetically created in mass quantities since 1989. So these peptides, these weapons, could be made synthetically in factories and they're dumping it anywhere. It could be. Or it could be used in drugs.
Sure, they could be.
It could be. Genentech, for example, the company that Gilead acquired some of these facilities from, Genentech created and funded a study isolating all of the 19 venom-specific toxins in king cobra venom. Published it January of 2020, Genentech declared a conflict of interest with a company called Roche that they own stock in, Genentech, who also had facilities bought by Gilead and acquired from Gilead, who makes Remdesivir. Genentech right now has multiple patented drugs that are cancer therapy drugs, each of which are actually derived from snake venom components. That's what Genentech does. You can go look it up. You don't have to fact check it, just go look it up. So the question is there a correlation to the side effects of Remdesivir, which perfectly overlap Remdesivir's description of its side effects from the published studies by Gilead and the World Health Organization database review over the last 2 years? I would like to know, are they using this because they're finding these snake venom-like peptide enzymes in people who were treated for COVID-19 in hospitals?
Yeah, really good point. And also, the history of medicine is a history of biomimicry. And, over the years, we've seen many, many articles in Scientific American and medical journals talking about even aquatic toxins from, conefish and stingrays and snails, as you said. Venom is very common throughout the natural world, throughout the animal kingdom. And different types of venom, achieve different things biologically speaking. As you said in our interview, sometimes they're pro-clotting factors or anti-clotting factors or anti-tumor or, cellular necrosis causing what have you. But, this, folks, for those of you watching, the idea that Big Pharma is deriving, quote, medicines from venom, this is not a suddenly new thing. This has been going on for decades.
Okay, Mike, let's do something. For your audiences, let's just do this. How many people watching the Health Ranger today know someone who's on a high blood pressure drug called lisinopril?
Yeah, common drug.
It is a very common drug. There are millions of prescriptions of lisinopril in America alone. And how many of you know that lisinopril, it's a combo drug, hydrochlorothiazide, and another drug made by Merck, owned by Merck. How many of you know that lisinopril is made from snake venom?
No, I didn't know that either.
And y'all are swallowing snake venom every day. That is a known ACE inhibitor to help reduce your blood pressure. Merck owns the patent on this drug derived from snake venom. You're swallowing it every day. This isn't a new concept. They've been making lisinopril in this drug for years. So I can't pull off my name, the patented name of the drug, but it starts with a C. It's like Capetrel or something in lisinopril, owned by Merck, but it's in lisinopril. And the other half of that is hydrochlorothiazide. That's an actual a diuretic to make you urinate, to help your body excrete water and lower your blood pressure. There are people around the country right now have no idea that they're actually swallowing snake venom components to lower their blood pressure. There's also snake venom components that are not in Merck's drug that actually increase blood pressure. Thank God they didn't put it in that, but they can weaponize these things. It's not far out to think that they're using drugs like this. They're using anti-cancer drugs, like I just mentioned with Genentech, that are actually made from snake venom. There's lots of drugs being made from snake venom. Snake venom is very, very powerful and has disruptive properties, and they have learned how to isolate those and then mass manufacture them and patent them as they isolate them and then synthetically make them.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And again, the term, folks, is biomimicry. And it's very common in big pharma. They go out and look for molecules in plants as well, such as the lovostatins in red yeast rice. And then they made statin drugs, right? But that came from a plant, but other drugs come from animals and venom. It's very common. Let me ask you this, Dr. Ardis. Have you received then today, from some of the people watching this, have you begun to receive a flood of new articles and intel that corroborates the things that you've been saying?
Yeah, that's a great question. I want you to know that it was phenomenal. I woke up this morning at 7 for an interview I was going to be on. And I noticed that Karen Kingston, who I'm sure you're aware of, she's been exposing lots of things in the patents surrounding the vaccines and other things. She said, I've talked about it a couple times here, that University of Arizona study where they said it's like venom going through their veins. The substance they found in high levels of these treated COVID-19 patients who died in hospitals is called SPLA2. and it's found in venom. She texted me at 2:00 in the morning saying she couldn't go to sleep and got on her laptop and found that enzyme is in every single COVID-19 vaccine.
Really?
Really. And then another person with AMP Media, his name is James, he sent me these texts. And I just have to tell you, there's going to be these holes plugged in because I haven't had time to solve every mystery surrounding COVID. And I can't wait to see what people come up with. But once you put the lens on for looking at it as venom, a whole bunch of things are going to become clear. For example, this is one of them, that a few people like you that I trusted with to talk to before I unleashed it on the world, what my thoughts were, my feelings were, and what I was uncovering, this guy said to me, and other people have, Dr. Ardis, if it's snake venom, how come wouldn't kids be affected the same way as a snake bite as adults? I cannot tell you. This was amazing this morning. I woke up. There were one research study after another that was sent to James from someone on the other side of the world who was awake in Europe, sent this to James, and then he forwarded them to me. Because she said, after watching Dr. Ardis's documentary, I finally solved the riddle. I had no idea what to look for. She said, I've always wondered why children weren't being found to be as sick or posed as high a risk to be hospitalized and die from COVID if it's such a dangerous pathogen. And she said, because of my interview, she went looking to see about snake venom, what would be in children that's not in adults as much that might be protective. Mike, I haven't even looked at this connection, but she had sent him studies showing that children have much higher levels of melatonin than adults do. And that she found studies where melatonin as a hormone is inhibitory to many components of snake venom.
Wow. So that explains the melatonin benefit.
Yes, and it explains why so many doctors were finding a melatonin benefit and couldn't figure it out. I didn't know the reasoning, but this totally explains why little kids, sleep a lot, why they have a whole lot more melatonin than the rest of us as they're growing. And it absolutely, one more time, was like, oh my God, thank God. People are putting it together and finding things I haven't even had time to look at or reason, but this could totally explain why that's happening.
So let me share something with you too that just came up today. I was interviewing Andreas Kalker, actually just a couple hours ago. And, he's the expert in chlorine dioxide solution, CDS, which is different from MMS, by the way, for those wondering. And Andreas Kalker actually has a patent on treating cobra venom with chlorine dioxide solution. And so I was able to ask him, we did a 20 minutes on this topic alone, treating snake venom or envenomization. Is that the right term for it?
Envenomation, yes.
Envenomation, excuse me. Treating that with a chlorine dioxide solution because it denatures, it basically snips apart all the little pieces and ends of the large snake venom molecule, thereby rendering it no longer toxic. And I was shocked. It's like, I didn't realize I'm sitting on, cobra snake venom treatments right here in my preparedness supplies. It's amazing.
Now, can I tell you something, Mike?
Yeah.
Phenomenal, because as I was going through this, I was looking for antidotes to the water solution. I'm not even kidding. I was like, if it's really in the water and they're finding it in wastewater, we know that's getting into our source water, unless they're filtering it out, which I don't and never seen anything about, but it's going to be recirculated into our bodies. We're going to be drinking it, showering in it, you name it. And just so you know, if you shower in it and it's in the water, there's spitting cobras, right, that target your eye, and those peptides get into your eyes of the animal and neurologically paralyze the animal,
right,
keep it from being able to breathe. That's how they target you. And I just want you to know, I asked somebody, I said, look, I want you to do this is a spiritual person. I said, I'm going to ask you a few things. I want to know, can you tell me what would help negate or inhibit venom suspended in water? This is what I asked her. This is like a month ago. And I was like, I'm going to run through a few things, and I want you to tell me which things test out in your experience and in your gifts. I want you to tell me what of all things will work. Do you know what the only thing was that she said? She goes, chlorine dioxide will work. It's the only thing.
Really?
And I was like, oh, sweet. I love chlorine dioxide. This is something we can actually say. Imagine now, Mike, if this guy could actually get with the CDC and start dumping chlorine dioxide into our wastewater that turns into our source water, maybe we could stop and help reduce the spread of SARS-CoV-2 in the water.
Well, absolutely. But it also brings up that if someone has to drink city water, they can treat that city water with chlorine dioxide, and they know that's going to denature snake venom. So that's a big answer for a lot of people. Because,
huge answer. You were right.
Right. And now for the shower, I mean, some people have shower filters. We don't yet know whether a carbon block filter is going to remove these large molecules. It's not clear to me. Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. I guess different water filters would have different levels of effectiveness based on their filtration media. But at least now we know. In fact, Andreas Kalker was telling me that there are people who treat animals who've been bitten by rattlesnakes or king cobras. King cobra bites on people. They will take like a plastic syringe with CDS in it, chlorine dioxide, and they will inject it into the wound at about 300 parts per million with saline solution, and it denatures the venom, and then the healing is a very simple matter from that point. Have you ever heard of that?
No, but that is phenomenal. This is some of the stuff that people now need to recognize are going to be anecdotes of protection. What a blessing. That's humongous. I love it.
I think that's huge too, because how many people are getting bit by snakes all over the world? Obviously, well, wasn't it? It was reported as.
Paul says it's the second largest crisis in the whole world right now.
Exactly. So you know what? By the way, since we're talking about this, let me just put a disclaimer on the record here. Just a disclaimer for everybody. You know, this is a process of discovery that you're watching here. We're learning about amazing things, first aid, medicine and so on, maybe ditch medicine, survival medicine. But just as a disclaimer, I do want to tell people, if you are bit by a snake, you should go to the ER, right? So you should.
I would.
You should go to the ER. You should, maybe they have anti-venom and they can give you that and so on and so forth. I don't want to tell people not to do that, but I think we need to research and explore these other solutions that are emerging, because venom might be a lot more common around us than what any of us suspected, because it's the ultimate kind of chemical weapon against humanity, really.
Absolutely. And I actually would say the same thing. If one of my children got bit by a snake, I'm going to take them to the hospital. I'm going to go there and let them do their ELISA IG test, hopefully, and determine what snake or snake venom, and do they have an anti-venom for it.
Right. Same thing here. But, I have donkeys on my ranch. If I have a donkey that's bit by a snake, I can't drag that donkey in to the vet. I need to treat that donkey right now. I might just go ahead and use CDS.
I would try it.
Yeah. I mean, I've treated wounds on the donkeys before using natural substances, and including colloidal silver, by the way. A big puncture wound. One of my donkeys, I'm sorry to get off track. One of my donkeys had a deep puncture wound. And that healed up using colloidal silver and hydrogen peroxide. Anyway,
awesome.
Donkeys are resilient. Yeah. Okay. Sorry to get distracted, but back to you, Dr. Ardis. What else do you want to add? I just want to really just say thank you for the opportunity, Mike, to have a platform to share this stuff. Thank you for trusting me enough to look at the documentation. It's been really relieving to my soul to finally share something that I think can have grave implications in preserving a ton of lives in the future. And that's really what my entire intent has been. I know that's why you became the health ranger in the first place, was to try to improve the life through food of individuals around the planet. And you knew you could do it through food, analyzing food, testing food, and then providing organic food products for people around the world. You've done a great job doing that. So my intention has never been anything different. It has been an amazing journey the last couple of years, trying to stand for humanity the way you have, just in a different way, which is trying to protect people from the poisons that they call pharmaceutical drugs. And I just want people to understand that I put more faith in God's natural immunity than I ever have in an injected man's creation in a lab. So that's just how I see things. I do want everyone in hope that individuals who have wondered why there's been so many countless side effects from the mRNA vaccines, that when they saw, like Dr. Hoff in British Columbia, when he found that every one of his mRNA vaccinated patients, they found elevated D-dimer levels, which means there's massive amounts of blood clotting going on in the bodies of these people.
if that correlates back to what Medscape publishes, that is an indicator of snake venom poisoning. If that's the case, we now know how to hopefully start handling the envenomation from these peptides. No matter how evil it is, how intentional it's been, the goal is to find out if that exists, treat it like snake venom poisoning, and let's see if their lives improve. Because so many lives have been so affected around the world. Half the world's been vaccinated already, at least once, twice, booster shots. So anything that we can do to help preserve their lives and help them to heal and improve their life is all I want to do. Well,
and it's also clear, and by the way, thank you for your courage in doing this. And I know when you and I spoke privately a month or two ago, you were not sure about what you wanted to do with the things that you had found. And then even after our conversation, you found a lot more. But,
I was scared to death, Mike, when
you were quite scared, and I probably didn't help that situation.
No, you freaked me out, Mike. Oh, I couldn't even look or do research for like 2 weeks. And then God, while I was sleeping, would say, go look at this, go look at this. And then I'd find more and more. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I guess I got to do it.
Well, one of the things that I'm not going to talk about much of what we went over, but they are trying to kill you. That's
personally trying to save my life. And I know you were, and I loved you for it. I absolutely loved you for telling me that stuff. And I'm just telling you right now, I actually have had in my house every day since a week ago. I've had special trained forces people in my house. They even came down with me to your studio. I'm going to take it seriously that I need security. And because I know, and I do trust Zev Zelenko's warning that I'm number one on some Pfizer's, Big Pharma's assassination list. Okay, great. Well, I might as well take some precautions, at least until I feel like it's safe and enough people around the world have the information to go look at what I'm suggesting. Something's got a target on me as number one for Big Pharma. The only thing I've been working on that's any different than what I've been talking about the last 2 years when I wasn't on that list is looking at the snake envenomation aspect of COVID-19. And you know as well as anybody else, you even told me they can track, see everything I'm researching, and they know what I'm looking at. I know they are. I know they can track, hear, see what I'm talking about. Absolutely. And that's why I would have come up on their radar. I'm convinced.
I think you're much safer now that you've put this information out.
I think so too.
Right, because it can't be put back in the box. And as you're doing, it seems like you're kind of crowdsourcing this. So you're saying to the world, hey, you look at this, you run with this, you add your area of expertise, you do research, right? And that's beginning to happen. And maybe our lab can help with this as well. If we could get some samples of Remdesivir from Gilead, if they would be kind enough to give us samples, we'd be happy to run the tests and share the results. But I also want to answer, even though you're probably being attacked for this, you're not selling some antidote to this, right? This is not a commercial endeavor for you. If anything, you're spending your time and money and resources. You're out of pocket to present this information. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. It's very expensive to do this. Last weekend I went and traveled. It cost me $5,000 just to have a security guy with me. Oh my goodness. There's never been any part of this that was out to make money. I do have on my site already, as of last September, before I even learned this, that there are things I've uncovered since December 1st getting this text that are inhibitory to snake venom, such as the things I showed you in your studio, Mike, like the snake venom phosphodiesterase that is inhibited completely by N-acetylcysteine, glutathione, and vitamin C. Well, I happen to have vitamin C. I happen to have NAC. So yes, I have let people know these are the antidotes, and there's a few of those on my site if you want to go get them. But this was not about that. I don't care where you get it. Get it from Mike. Go get it from somewhere else. I don't care. Have this stuff on hand and take advantage of them and see if it improves your life.
Yeah, exactly. Well said. And where do you think this is going next? Because, by the way, as of this recording, we haven't yet released part 3 of our interview. That's coming out. So we've released two parts out of 3. But what's next for you on this?
What's next is probably a whole lot of interviews. I have had inundated nonstop requests for interviews to come talk on people's platforms, educate their audiences, maybe speaking engagement. I have no idea. I've already planned out speaking engagements for the next 3 months, but It really is. I am most excited to see what comes to me as a result of people doing their own research and looking at this. I cannot tell you how fascinating it's going to be for me and how enthralled and excited I'm going to be if, for example, Dr. Ryan Cole, as a pathologist, can take some of the tissue samples he's been looking at underneath the microscope. Could you imagine if he was able to send that out and have it tested at labs to see if snake venom peptides show up in those tissue samples?
Oh, yeah.
But they haven't known to look for that before. Oh, my goodness. Then this could explain all the micro blood clotting he's been reporting on. And then states have been attacking him to take away his medical license in 3 different states because of his claims. What if they're substantiated that there is something nefarious and evil, toxic, known in nature is in these tissue samples, like all of them? What if it shows up? Then this will solve a huge mystery and be a relief, I hope, to many people who have been attacked, barraged, defamed, and ridiculed.
And by the way, in Australia, you can buy snake venom identification kits, but it's only available in Australia for some reason. And
there's amazing amounts of snake venom studies in Australia. I'm actually convinced from a study done by Dr. Brian Fry in 2005. He actually did a study of viper venom. And he also in 2005 identified 19 venom-ome specific toxins, 19 in 2005, that are generated in the venom gland of the snake from enzymes of the organs in the snake's body. And then in the venom glands, they turn them into toxic organ targeting peptides. He figured that out in 2005. He's a world-renowned researcher on snake venom, and he knows more about snake venom than anybody else, and he's in Australia. I would not be surprised. I've actually thought the whole time that since 2005, when they identified the 19 toxins there, that they've been planning all along to use it again in 2019, call it snake venom or COVID-19, just using a play on those 19 toxins. I think that's what they're planning, but that's just speculative. To identify that in 2005, the same year, Mike, that they found hydroxychloroquine inhibits SARS-CoV-1. And we know that hydroxychloroquine and chloroquine antimalarials inhibit snake venom peptides. And then turn around in 2019 and 20, Anthony Fauci comes out and says, we cannot use hydroxychloroquine or chloroquine for this new SARS-CoV-2. The timelines either are ironically coincidental or evilly planned.
Well, no doubt, Dr. Ardis, you have blown the lid wide open on this, and I have a feeling that a lot of people are going to keep digging. And now you've given a lot of context to people. I heard from, for example, a woman who was watching the documentary, and she sent over a comment that said, wow, finally, I now know what we're treating. So you've actually taken away a lot of fear from people. You've given people an understanding of what they're dealing with so that they can actually heal and detox and counteract this, including those who have taken the mRNA shots.
That has been the whole thing I've been excited about, Mike. If they can finally know with absolute certainty what they're treating, they can resolve, I pray, the majority of the problems people are seeing with these shots or with COVID-infected variants of any kind. Oh my God, if they could just know what to look for and target. There's been years of decades of research and study and practical applications of things as antidotes to snake venom poisoning. Now go use them and just watch the miracle unfold.
Any final thoughts, Dr. Ardis? We got to wrap this up here today, but again, thank you for bringing this to everybody's attention. I know there's a lot more to come, but what would you like to leave people with here?
My message would be this. Please don't focus on the distribution or the method of how they've spread the weapon. I want people to focus on what it is I believe has pointed to what the actual biological weapon is. It just so happens to also be, from antiquity, one of the most historical biological weapons that have been used for all of mankind's history. Snake venom, venom from snails, venom from frogs like poison dart frogs. Of course, we've used venoms from animals as weapons to cause harm and injury and death. This is what they've been around forever. Just go look at it If you can find a connection, please keep digging and then share that information, that intel with the health ranger, share it with me, and then share it with the world, because I absolutely am convinced that God has helped me figure this out to direct all of you in a way to go figure it out also what else I'm missing. And then let's fill in the gaps and help preserve all of humanity.
Yeah, well said, Dr. Ardis. Thank you so much for spending time with us today and for bringing, explanations and answers to this issue. Look forward to speaking with you again on this topic, and stay safe in the meantime, okay?
You're very welcome. Well, tell the audiences where to go watch the first 2 episodes if they haven't seen them already.
Yeah, well, they're on brighteon.com, and just search for, I guess, your last name, Ardis, Ardis, and you'll find them there. And they're also on other platforms as well. And folks, you can also share this video on your own channel or other platforms at the same time. So thank you all for watching today, and thank you again, Dr. Ardis, for joining us.